Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Delegate Candy Munden King, and I represent Virginia's 23rd House District in the Virginia House of Delegates. One of my priorities has always been and will always be protecting our reproductive freedom. And what we just heard is exactly how extreme and intense Winsome Earl Sears' opposition to reproductive freedom is. Last week, new reporting exposed a number of her comments attacking reproductive freedom, adding to her already long record of opposing a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. As you heard, she said, we need to make our choices before we're pregnant, not, after you've already made a choice. And further diminishing the experiences of those who are survivors of rape and of incest. It is absolutely cruel. And we've heard the stories of the women in Virginia who have been survivors of rape, survivors of abuse. We've heard those who have tragically lost their pregnancy and needed access to abortion care. And what we hear is an extreme agenda. And even earlier this year, she voted against the right to contraception. She can't even stand up and say that women have the right to access contraception. This leaves the door open for extreme restrictions on a woman's right to choose. And she never even explained, after months of silence about her vote, she finally came out and said that protecting access to birth control is pushing a political agenda. Well, I have news for her. The only political agenda playing out is hers, as she tries to insert politicians into our conversations that should be between women and their doctors. Her other comments equating abortion to genocide and her support of a near total abortion ban, similar to the ones that we see in Texas that have left women bleeding in the parking lots of hospitals and near death, are just too extreme for Virginians. If she makes it to the governor's mansion, she'll have the power to veto legislation and block efforts to enshrine reproductive rights. She will have the power to deny families using IVF the access to their care. She's already gone so far as to say she is morally opposed to protecting reproductive freedoms. As a delegate, I can tell you how unusual it is for someone to go as far as to write a note with their personal feelings on a bill or an amendment in the first place. That handwritten note, her previous comments, her extensive record attacking reproductive freedom makes it crystal clear to me that she is wildly out of step with Virginians on this issue, and she would do everything that she can to roll back reproductive freedom. She would unleash an extreme restriction on reproductive care and insert politicians into conversations that should be between us and our doctor. And as you've heard, as these comments have come to light, I have a message for her. What's done in the dark will come to light. These comments disparaging women, disparaging survivors of rape, dismissing survivors of incest and abuse have come to light and shown us exactly who she is. And Virginians deserve better. We deserve a leader who will fight for us, who will protect our rights instead of gutting them. And that's why I'm supporting Abigail Spanberger, who has made it clear where she stands on this issue. Winsome Earl Sears is too extreme for Virginia. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Delegate King. My name is Ray Pickett, and I am the Communications Director for Planned Parenthood Advocates of Virginia. As we've seen attacks on reproductive rights across the country, leaders in Virginia have worked to try to protect reproductive freedom in the Commonwealth. Right now, Virginia is the only place in the South that has yet to pass new restrictions on abortion since Roe was overturned. Like we've seen in so many other places, that progress can quickly be threatened and lost, especially when Republicans have the opportunity. It's why it is so concerning that Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears, who is running to be the governor of Virginia, has an extreme and out of touch record of attacking reproductive rights. And these newly reported comments reaffirm just how extreme she is by saying we need to make our choices before we're pregnant, not, after you already made a choice. Sears is dismissing the countless different reasons and situations where people seek out reproductive care. The fact is, politicians do not belong in exam rooms. Patients should be able to make medical decisions with their healthcare provider. Earlier this year, Sears voted against the Right to Contraception Act, once again, trying to limit our ability to make our own choices. While Sears is trying to lie about where she stands, saying she's never said limiting access, these comments, along with her extensive record attacking reproductive freedom, make it clear she will only roll back our rights. From her note that she's morally opposed to protecting reproductive freedom, to proclaiming she's shoulder to shoulder in the fight against IVF, to supporting a near total abortion ban, and declaring she'll do everything in her power to stop abortion in Virginia, Sears has a dangerous agenda. And if she becomes governor, she would have ample opportunity and power to enact her out of touch agenda that would be outright harmful to Virginians. To be clear, we know if she has the chance, Winsome Earl Sears would take extreme action to restrict access to health care for Virginia women. As we see more and more attacks on reproductive rights here in Virginia and across the country, it is especially important that we have leaders who will stand up for our rights. Virginians deserve that. Now I'll hand it off to Jenny Higginbottom.
Thank you, Ray. My name is Jenny Higginbotham. I'm a Virginian, and I'm here today to tell my story. 33 years ago, I had an almost 2-year-old daughter, and I was 21 weeks pregnant when I went in for an ultrasound. I don't normally tell this story out loud. My husband, my daughter, and I went in for the ultrasound. It started. The technician was rather quiet, which I knew was unusual because I'd already had a child. She asked if she could excuse herself and came back in the room with my doctor. They continued the ultrasound with hushed tones. He told me I could clean up and come back to his office. My husband and I looked at each other and we knew it wasn't going to be good news. When we sat down, we were told that the baby had high drops. Its chest cavity and abdomen were filled with fluid, and even though it had a heartbeat, I had to make a choice that day whether to terminate the pregnancy starting then or starting the next day. That was because I was so far along in my pregnancy that if I had waited any longer, we would have run into some problems. So, after the procedure, the doctor told me that the baby had gangrene had set in on its limbs, and that had I carried that pregnancy any longer, I could have died, and that would have left my daughter without a mother. I'm here today because 33 years ago, I was able to make a healthcare choice for myself with my doctor. A woman's reproductive rights should be her own. We need leaders that understand that they need to protect a woman's right to make her own choices. Winsome Earl Sears has been clear she won't do that. And if any of the restrictive laws, like the near total ban on abortion, that Sears would like to put in place had been there, my story might have had a different ending. Thank you. I'd like to pass this off to Pat Eastwood now.
Pat, I think you're muted. There we
How
go.
about now? I'm Pat Eastwood. You can hear me now?
Yep, good to go.
So I'm a Virginian, and I'm here today to share my story. And after listening to Jennifer, I can certainly relate because I had 13 ultrasounds during my pregnancy for various complications, but that first one, I knew something was wrong with the hushed tones of the technician, and so forth. But at any rate, at the age of 42, I had an unplanned pregnancy. I had complications from the beginning and throughout my pregnancy. I'm grateful to say that the result was a healthy baby boy who's now almost 28 years old. But when I look back and know that at any time along the way, I could have needed certain types of care that might not have been available to me, or that I or my doctor might have even been prosecuted for if these extreme laws that Winsome Earl Sears supports had been in place at that time. Having gone through that high-risk pregnancy, it's just disturbing to me that Winsome Earl Sears has made the comments she has. We don't ever know ahead of time what complications we might be facing and what decisions we might have to make during a pregnancy. And paired with the rest of her record attacking reproductive rights, it's clear Sears won't protect reproductive freedom and instead will unleash dangerous restrictions and a near total abortion ban. She wrote it herself. She's morally opposed to protecting reproductive care. And reproductive care is an issue that's very personal to me. It's important that we maintain the ability of women and their families to make the best choices for themselves without interference from politicians. And it's not just a women's issue. My husband suffered a lot from the stress of going through this pregnancy with me. And I was very fortunate because I had leave from my job that was paid. I had, a lot of support, which a lot of women don't have. But at any rate, Winsome Earl Sears' extreme policies are the reason I will not be supporting her in November.